Welcome to After Effects MetaBall Rig Vibe Coding tutorial. Well, not a tutorial, more like a walkthrough of my process and why I did what I did. Uh, Everything you're seeing is MetaBall rig that I built out of shape layers and nulls. Um, these are the actual finished animations that were made from the rig that is in talks today. So let me just walk you through my thought process. Um, so first thing is these were the designs that were handed to me, which I was responsible to animate. And with most when you look at stuff like this, you instantly think, oh yeah, this is gonna need kind of like this MetaBall treatment. And MetaBall is a term used very widely. And there, don't get me wrong, there's ways of doing MetaBall uh, style of animations using like 3D, third-party plugins or just plugins in general, like blurring two balls together. For example, just real quick, 3840. But yeah, like just create two circles. Oop, that's a bad circle. All right, let's get some color on this. There we go. Stroke, nothing. And just duplicate that and no, duplicate that. There we go. And old trusted way of doing it was just, use a blur. I'll use box blur, fast box blur, and you just blur it, you know, and then you drop a levels on that levels, and then you just kind of level it up backwards. Sorry, I didn't set this up for, but yeah. Oh, sorry, the alpha, and then you're gonna start seeing the metaball reaction occur. You just move them back and forth, and then you get this like nice little meta ball action. Which overall, I was like, okay, I can just use this attempt or this style for this kind of animation. Um, and when you look at it, you're like, yeah, that could work. So I quickly learned that that would not work. And why wouldn't that work is because I needed to maintain this very, very geometrical outline and shape, which, if you look at carefully is, if you, it's, you can, I think the best way to describe it is that this open space is just the next ball next to it, and so on and so on. And so the more I examined the designer's artwork, I started thinking, metaballs are not going to be the best way to cover this type of execution. So what I went ahead and first I did the metaball try. So which this is the effect. I'm using an effect on top of this, the same thing you just saw right now, fast box blur levels, and you can see it is doing what it needs to do. But as you can see, I would have to play around with a lot of time trying to get that to be the exact same shape and also find the exact amount of blur and levels settings to just make sure I get that kind of arch. Or yeah, and it's you can see it's not working out at all. So my first attempt, I was like, this isn't gonna work, and then I was like, this is gonna have to be some mathematical execution where I have to uh, calculate whatever this distance between this ball and this ball, and then maybe. So my thought was like, hey, what if I put a bar between a box, a rectangle between circle one and circle two, perfect, and wherever that ball goes, that rectangle will continuously look at it, so they're lined up, so it looks like a bar. And then what I was thinking is like, if I have two circles on either side, for example, like if I have this circle over here, and like, let me just make it blue real quick. blue. Right. There we go. And I didn't make it blue. Boo hoo. There we go. Blue, blue, blue. There we go. So yeah, if I had two circles next to it like that, and let me get another circle, boop, and put that one over here. There we go. I don't know why my computer's jaws moving so slow. It's like a delayed response. Okay, anyway. Yeah, I started thinking, hey, this could possibly work if I have like a square next. Where's my square? Square. There we go. All right. And then I just make a square, and I believe that size of that circle is, let's make this yellow or green, is like 270. So I just make this one 270, and, or it's probably a little less. Whoops. Then come here. I'm just going to make this like 50%, and then I just rotate it, and yeah, it is 270. So if I have this, and let me put it underneath, and then I make sure that it's exactly the same width. It's exactly in the center of these red circles, and it's also, perfectly aligned with it. And then if I use like a way to like mat these out, then I should be able to get something that's kind of like a MetaBall, so that was my idea. So in order to get this right, I knew I wasn't going to be able to write an expression for all these like details. So let me just show you the outcome of my second attempt. So my second attempt, which is right here, whoop, as you can see, it locks in perfectly. It's exactly the design, and I knew that this was gonna be the best approach because it was fully modular. I can make the distance between these circles as big as I wanted to. I talked that through with ChatGPT. But overall, the way this is working is that the two blue circles are right here, and they're also responding to the placement. So what you're seeing is that these two nulls that the circles are connected to are the exact distance away, half the distance away from each red circle. And the distance between, I added a slider. Oh, well, I didn't add a slider, but ChatGPT, I requested ChatGPT to give me a slider so I can push these two circles away from each other, so that way the thickness of that like rectangle that's in the middle, and yes, that rectangle is still there, it's just right here. uh boop, and you can see it right there. There's the rectangle. you know the rectangle's still there. It's just being matted out. I'll talk about the mat process that I use to cut away the edges, because if you look back at this attempt, this is all working correctly, but like these little slivers need to be taken care of. That was just a set mat setup that I kind of thought about was the best way to approach that, and it did work. When I came back here, I was looking at the blue ball, and then so I knew what I needed to do. uh, I just needed to express all these details to ChatGPT, and I'll just show you that my workflow and how that worked out. Let me go to the actual setup project that I have that's already set up with like the overall look and feel. As you can see, look, it's getting cut off. That just means that we need to tell it that there should be more. These blue circles should be further away. So there's a slider that just pushes them away, so that way you get a longer elasticity, which is really fun once you start playing with it. It's really cool. Whee! Yep. And then, you can even have like further away, not a problem. Just add like way more, what I would say, elasticity to it. And if you bring it in closer, you'll also notice that like it gets thicker. as it gets closer to it. So yeah, you have full control of this, and you can even like what's cool is make the scales different, which is really fun. You know, yeah. But anyway, back to the actual. Um, oh, and just the one thing, if you just keep going up crazy with this number, you can actually eventually get like a straight line. Like it'll actually be a straight line because what is a circle other than the fact is as you get as the circle gets bigger and bigger, it eventually will be a straight line after a certain amount of like distance away from it. Uh, so let's go back to this. Here we go. Fun. And yes, so what was the first thing to solve here? That would be, let me just open this up. Okay. And let me close all this. So the first thing to solve, if we just look at the actual circle 1 and circle 2. I'll keep the grid up so it's easier to see things. Ooh, little save. Why not? Sorry. Okay. And then of course there should be a null driving these things so that way they can be moved around. That makes sense. And then next thing would be I need to make that rectangle in between them. So I went ahead and first question I asked ChatGPT was like, uh, the way I talked to it is like, hey, I need an After Effects. I have an After Effects question, and then it's like, okay, like let me know, and then I go like, I need to know what the that tells me the distance between two objects, which is like these two circles, or in this case, the two nulls, you know. And I went ahead and added that information, and then you get this. Let me just turn off these overall effects and make this a different color so we can look at it easier. There we go. So yeah, if you look at it, it's just a rectangle and it is just exactly in the center of these circles. So if we look at the expressions on here, the expressions are set first of all to the rotation to make sure that it's always looking at right now first of all, this box is parented to the center circle. And then after that, we need to know the distance between this circle, circle 1 and circle 2, or circle start and circle end. And the rotation has an effect on it. It's a pretty simple expression that you can ask ChatGPT, hey, like, give me an expression that's going to look at this layer. And then, just pop it right in. It wasn't too hard with that one. And then the size that needs to be here should also be the size of how long this should be. That would be where I add that expression that, as you can see, it just gives it to me, which is great. And I can just copy and paste that in. I added another portion of this expression, which was needed, which is like if one circle is bigger than the other, the rectangle should also be the biggest it should be. So if I change the size of, like, let's say this scale of this circle, see how that rectangle is getting bigger? And if I change the scale of that one, this one gets bigger. So whichever one's the biggest is the one that's going is the size or the y of that rectangle. Again, it seems like it doesn't make sense, but like all of this is necessary for you to be able to always have like a nice flush MetaBall. Again, this isn't technically a tutorial. This is more like a walkthrough, so that way you can start like asking chat. I mean, essentially, like I had a question, like, and I was just like, okay, all I have to do is ask like clearly and concisely like what I want, and you just get something back, and then you just drag and drop it in. So let's keep going with what ChatGPT said. So what did I ask next is something like, now I need an expression that gives me the exact center of two layers, which is probably where the bar was meant to be. So actually, can you make this expression work based on a comp space? Because earlier it wasn't, and then it's easy. It just gives you nice expression to copy and paste. And how many times is apparently I can't do math either. Next, can now that I kind of figured out how to get that rectangle here, The real big ask was actually here. So I kind of set, as you can see, I kind of like what I did in attempt two. I kind of set up this. Oh no, sorry, right here in attempt one. I kind of set this up, took a screenshot of it, and then I just like pasted it into ChatGPT and I asked, "Hey, please take a look at this image. I want to find the position data for the blue circle based on the distance of the two red circle. Each circle is exactly 270 pixels away from each other, and the green bar is exactly the length of the two red circles. So, and then I said I want to animate the two circles coming together, and I want the blue. I can't even write that right. Anyway, if you have spelling errors, ChatGPT knows what you actually meant. Circles to maintain exact distance away from the two circles, including the red circle radius. So, boom, here's, it just says like awesome. This is the classic circle tangent to circle setup. Apparently it's a classic. That, not that I know that, but and then it just says it like, put the following expression on the blue circle's position. Cool. I went ahead. If you go to the blue circle right here, which is these guys, and let me just turn everything back on. It's a lot easier that way. Okay, go to these blue circles and position, and I just went ahead and copy and pasted exactly what it told me to copy and paste. It's long, but it made sense to the execution I wanted. And then of course there's things happen. Let's see what I wrote next. Looks like I would like to ask an additional question to the above expression. So I think my next step was, let's see, I modified the expression you made by connecting the size of the blue circles as well as adding a slider that acts as a pinch control. It all works fine, but what I would love to add is the expression is the ability for the red circles to be different scales and the blue circles should stay next to the red circles while maintaining their radius distance. So yeah, the biggest deal was that um these blue circles had to be right up next to those red circles. So that way you get this perfect flushed, metaball stretch. So that's what I told it. And then I also told it like, this first image is what my current expression does. The second image is what I want the expression to do. So what is the difference? This ball is now larger compared to, see, these are both the same size. So I think that math is like, very to my understanding maybe simple, but once you start including scale into that, like, then that's a whole nother mathematical execution. This has to still maintain its center, but it has to know the length of this like diameter, and the diameter of this, and still be exactly in the center based on how far it is from each other. Yeah, that's a lot of math. So I just showed it the expression that I had because I had a custom named sliders and layers, and I wanted it to use the same ones. And I asked it like, oh, here's the expression, and the expression I'm currently using. So again, it's like, oh man, totally doable. Cool, 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 cool. So just hit copy, and then I pasted that back in, and I'm sure that fixed what I wanted. Let's see what the next setup. Oh, looks like there was an After Effects error, and After Effects errors are gonna happen because maybe ChatGPT thought something like and it didn't work out. And when things don't work out for me and there's an error, I just take a snapshot and then I just paste it back out. It's like, hey, there's an After Effects error. Like, check the image, and say, oh, good catch, the error, and then it figures it out, writes it back at you, and then it worked that time. So next thing was like, I think I need an expression for the blue circle so they scale up appropriately, and right now the blue circles are too close to each other. So I guess what happened is that um the circles were just so close to each other. Once I kept pulling the one of the circles away from the other, and they just kind of collided into each other. So I guess I asked, these blue circles are too close to each other and are not staying and are not staying the radius distance apart from the red circle. If you need to, let's take out the pinch slider. And I guess I asked for that. I'm not sure why I would ask for that, but I guess it worked. But let's see okay, so there must have been an issue. So yeah, so sometimes when you use ChatGPT and like it just starts doing everything like it just comes out wrong. It kind of works, but it's not doing what you want. And in certain situations, you just be like, hey, let's start over. So this expression you made works perfectly. I will place the expression at the bottom of the crest. Let's take the expression and add the ability to have different sized red circles and have the blue circle stay attached along the sides of the red circles, maintaining radius distance away from them. And I said I attached an image, check it out, and then I guess this time it did a much better job. It did a much better job. Um, the next thing was I says it does not look like it's working correct. Okay, maybe it didn't work correctly. So I tell it like, hey, it's not working, dude. This is what it looks like visually, and here's the expression. So taking snapshots and uploading, awesome, because ChatGPT sees what you're talking about and it works to your advantage to make sure that you get the right output that you want. So what did I say? So the expression of my custom naming. Okay, so I added back the expression that it gave me. It looks like the blue circles are too far away. Okay, so it gives me another something else to plug in, and I plug it in, you know, and then I go, now the blue circles just stay in the center. Oops. So again, process, copy, paste. Uh, okay, hey, look at that. It works perfectly. So it worked. And again, this is me going back and forth, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, and then me like testing it out to see if it works. Um, and then I go, okay, it worked perfectly. Can we add a slider that's on its own layer and that will allow me to control to move the blue circles away from the center and the same time scale up to maintain the exact distance from the red circle and its radius. That would be this controller that I call blue radius. This is the one that lets me control how thick and everything is. Nothing's happening now because I took away the mats for the box, but here it is. Oop, I put it down to 0. Wake up. Woo, there we go. See, now it's like nicely cutting around, and then you can see it's actually cutting even more. I'll show you what that is in a second. Okay, so yeah, everything worked great, and let's see. Well, I copied that and pasted in, and looks, that was the end of my conversation with ChatGPT. It gave me everything I needed to output the rig that I needed to create the animations I had to make. But there's one more step here that I think is really fun to see, is the way I cut out these slabs, because there's a bunch of set mats here. Now I'm just gonna take all these mats away and I'm gonna build them up one by one. So the first mat is this blue circle. The next mat is this other circle. And as you can see, if I get in closer, there are these slivers that sort of stick out. And I knew that wasn't going to be something that ChatGPT figures out, that was going to be able to figure out. But I was pretty certain I can figure out how to get rid of these slivers with like doing some type of matte breakout. So if I figured out where how the distance between these 2 points are. So now what I did is I figured out the distance between this point and this point, and I created another bar. So that bar is essentially this bar, and you can see it's like black and white. So the exact, one more second, the exact center between this point and this point is exactly the area where the 2 circles meet. So that means that's exactly where they're touching, and I need to find that point, make a line, and then just essentially mat out everything on the right side and then keep everything on the left side. So that's what you just saw. I just made a box and I just used a gradient fill that is, very, very tight. Edit gradient. It's just, the start point and the end point are just like right up next to each other. You can see it's like right here. They're like 1 pixel apart, but that was exactly what I needed to be able to mat out. So I just, I used set mat, and I told it to, hey, set mat out the white portion, which you can see it cut it right out. Perfect. So all I had to do that was do that like 4 times over, on both sides, and slowly it just cut, each piece one by one. Boop, boop. Set mat's fun. Love set mat. So yeah, as you can see, everything is built via like just shape layers, and it works perfectly, and I haven't had any issue. Well, I mean, honestly, I only so the the problem was posed by the design, and this execution is just for that design. I never meant for this to be used for other purposes. It just I just needed it to build my overall uh animation that I need to create. Let me just play around with this a little bit so you guys can see it moving in action. Woo, very fun. Shoo. Boop, boop. Yeah, let's make this one a little bigger because that's fun. Ooh, yeah. Make this one also a little bigger. Ooh. I mean, you could also just move the whole thing too if you wanted to, you know. But I just like keeping it in the center. Why did I keep it in the center? Because I needed to create a whole bunch of these. So if I go back to this thing, so yeah, if I go back to this, you can see that this is made of a whole bunch of uh MetaBall rigs, just a whole bunch of them, How many? A lot. So like if I come in here, I go to like my mat system, oh, not this mat system. You can see these are all the different dots, pre-comps I made to be able to get the layout that I wanted. So it's all like timed and laid out with circles. Here, I can show you all the versions that I made, all the different versions that I made, which should be right here. So I just like pre-rendered them all out for you to be able to see easily. Okay, so yeah, this is a grid of all 15 different variations of the MetaBall rig that I needed to create that letter structure from the final animation. And you can see like this one's just like a bar becoming two circles. This one is just becoming like two circles into a bar. This one's a circle like kind of pushing away from itself, like it has a connection, then bloop, pops away. This one's also kind of the same thing, but then this one disappears, and some of them appear, disappear. But yeah, lots of different variations, all really fun. But overall, in the end, the MetaBall rig took about 2 hours with the back and forth with ChatGPT. Those 2 hours were absolutely necessary to be able to animate these kind of structures. Honestly, doing it a different way would have been a real pain, and would have taken way longer. Um, to sum up everything, as long as you understand what your execution should be, and come up with a reasonable game plan, um, that should be enough to help you with working alongside like AI systems like either ChatGPT or Claude. I use both. um, work alongside them, and then just be concise and persistent on your requests, and get you some trial and error, and then you'll eventually get something that works. I'm happy that this worked out for me. So yeah, that's about it. Thanks.